Next video is solving two-step and multi-step inequalities. So we already practiced solving two-step equations and multi-step equations, so you kind of know the basics. So we're going to put them both together today when we're solving our inequalities. So get your notes set up with our learning target and our I can statement, and then we're ready to go.
Okay, these steps should look familiar to you. First, we're going to look to see if we can use the distributive property, which in this first example, negative 20 is greater than negative 2x plus 4, we don't have. Then we're going to look to see if we can combine any like terms. Nope, we only have one variable and one constant on the right side, so that doesn't apply here either. And then you might even need to do both before you can start solving. So if you don't mind writing those steps down, because our examples will get to that, that would be great. Once it looks like a two-step equation, we are ready to solve this one. So we're going to draw our line down in the middle of the inequality. We're going to undo the constant by adding a negative to both sides, or subtracting 4. No, yeah. When we simplify, we end up with, negative 24 is greater than negative 2x.
Sorry, my writing was off. I was focused on that.
I would have canceled that first, but it's okay. All right. We've got to undo by dividing by a negative 2.
Make sure to take that negative with.
Okay, stop.
My alarm didn't go off in my head.
Well, mine is. When we divide by negative 2, we need to make sure we not only cancel it off to bring down the x, but we've got to flip that sign. And a negative 24 divided by a negative 2 is a positive 12. So we are ending up with x is greater than 12. Number line should be easier in the positive world. X is greater than 12. Open circle on 12. Moving to the right, please.
So since it says 12 is less than x, Mrs. King likes to read it backwards to focus on the x.
I have to start with my x, I'm sorry.
So x is greater than 12 since 12 is less than x. So same two-step process that we did with equations. The only difference is watching for that one step. Did we multiply or divide by a negative? Because that's going to cause us to flip the inequality symbol. So let's tackle some tougher ones. So this one, Mrs. King talked through the steps, and you should have them written up in your notes. First, you look for distributive property. Then you look to see if you combine your like terms. Then you look to see if you can start to solve the equation, or the inequality in this case. Here, I've got lots of pieces. So I want to get rid of my subtractions and then look to see what can I combine together. Here I have my like terms of negative 2x and negative 5x. So that gives me negative 7x.
Plus negative 4.
Sorry, my phone's ringing in my pocket, so I had to stop.
Is greater than 10.
Now we're going to get rid of our addition. Here we are adding a negative 4. So I'm going to add the opposite. I'm going to add a positive 4 to both sides. Or you can think of it as subtracting a negative, which is the same thing as adding a positive.
So we are simplifying to negative 7x is greater than 14.
Next step is I'm going to divide by negative 7 since they multiplied by it.
Bell, bell, bell.
A little alarm goes off that says, ooh, I divided by a negative, so I need to flip the inequality around. And I get x is less than negative 2.
So negative 2, negative 1, 0. Negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6. Open circle, please. Which direction, sir?
And negative 2 is greater than x, so that means x is less than negative 2. So I'm going to shade in going to the left. And then here's the part where it takes a little bit more work, is make sure when you do your check, make sure you go back to the original version of the problem. Because if you don't, sometimes you made a mistake somewhere in here. If you use your incorrect version, it's going to look like your answer worked, but in reality, you missed something in that original problem, since I clearly screwed it up. All right, so we're going to check with a negative 5, so we're going to plug it in. We're going to do a negative 2 times a negative 5, minus 5 times negative 5, minus 4. And we like to get rid of those subtractions, so we can make it adding the opposite here, just like we usually do. Negative 2 times negative 5 is 10.
Plus
Negative 5 times negative 5 is 25, plus negative 4. 10 plus 25 is 35, plus negative 4 is 31.
Which is greater than 10. So
10 is less than 31, so we are good. Next one, you can take this one.
I want red, please.
Picky, picky.
We're going to distribute first because that is the first step in our the equation out. So 7 times 2 is going to come first, which is 14, plus 7 times a negative 1x is going to be a negative 7x, plus 9, and then we've got is greater than or equal to 2. We're going to combine our constants because that is step 2. So 14 plus 9 is going to give us a negative 7x plus 23 is greater than or equal to 2. Now we have a two-step inequality. Undo by adding a negative 23 to both sides. It's going to give us a negative 7x on the left and a negative 21 on the right, which works out nicely because if you divide both sides by negative 7, hold on, don't fill that out yet, x, you get 3 on the right side, positive 3. The alarm should go off because we're dividing by a negative 7. When we divide by a negative number, we then have to flip the sign. So the end result will give us x is less than or equal to 3. Boy, you're writing fast today. 2, 1.
They're good at pausing where they need to.
Okay, close circle.
So close circle at 3 because we want
left.
to include it, and then x is less than or equal to.
You want to hear my check? You're going to love it. All right, let's pick 0. So
that's a good choice.
it's a fantastic choice to get this done with. So 2 minus 0.
So we can do 7 times 2 minus 0.
Plus 9 is great.
So
yeah,
2 minus 0
times
is 2. Times 7 is
14. 14 plus 9 is 23. And 23 is greater than or equal to 2. Check done.
all right. One last one because we
you
all
love
love
fractions.
the fractions. So remember when we have a fraction out front, rather than distributing it through to each of the terms on the inside, because life gets kind of messy that way, we go ahead and take care of the fraction right off the bat by multiplying by its reciprocal. So in this case, it'd be negative 3 halves on both sides. But notice right off the bat, those cancel out. We're left with 7x minus 2. But notice we multiplied both sides by a negative. So that little alarm goes off, and we got to flip it to
Even when it's a
less
negative
than.
fraction, you got to do it no matter what step it is.
Here we do a little cross simplifying.
And you're left
And
with
we get
negative
3 times negative
9.
3 is negative 9. And then we're ready to solve it. They subtracted 2, so I'm going to add 2 to both sides. And it's okay if you change that to adding the opposite.
You are left with 7x is less than negative 7. You're dividing both sides by 7, so x is less than a negative 1.
So you divided by a positive number, so you're not going to switch your inequality symbol again. It's going to stay less
I
than.
was just thinking about that. Wouldn't it be crazy if you had to switch it twice in the middle of a problem?
We'll have to find one of those for
I
them.
know. Okay, x is less than negative 1. Open circle.
And shade it to the left for less than. Numbers that are less than that. And then let's plug in something
What number are you choosing?
easy. So let's do
Negative 1.
7 times negative 2.
Okay, that's negative 14. Now watch this. Negative 14 minus or plus a negative 2 gives you a negative 16. Fancy pants, what you going to do with this? Yuck! Blah, should have picked negative 1 like I
We
told
did a whole
you to.
unit on multiplying with fractions. They can handle it.
Whatever.
Negative 2 times negative 16 is 32 thirds. That's a mixed or an improper fraction. So it goes in 10 times with 2 left over. So 10 and 2 thirds.
It doesn't matter because at
Is
the
that
end of the day
greater
it's
than
greater than
6?
6, so you're good.
So we are good to go.